Custom home builders, let me ask you something, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself when you answer it. If I asked you right now, how many qualified leads do you have coming in next month? Not jobs you're hoping will close, not conversations that might turn into something, actual qualified people in your pipeline who are moving towards signing a contract. How many? For most of the builders I work with, when I ask that question, I get one of three answers. They either name a number that's way too small, they say, I've got some referrals coming in I'm waiting on, or they go quiet, crickets. And here's the thing, these aren't struggling builders. Most of the guys who end up on a call with me, they're doing 4, 6, $8 million a year. Good work, great reputations, great track records, and they have almost zero predictability in their pipeline. And that's what we're talking about today, because the referral only model that got you here is quietly working against you, and it is crushing your ability to scale. And I'm going to show you exactly why, and more importantly, what to do instead. And this is real talk. If you can't tell me how many qualified leads you have coming in next month, you don't have a pipeline, you have a prayer. And I'll raise my hand. I was like this too when I started, but a mentor of mine 20 odd years ago, when we were doing 3, 4, 5 million a year, said, how do you know what your sales are going to be next year? And I said, well, we grew by 5% last year. You know, we've got these opportunities on the board. Everybody has their whiteboard with their opportunities, but there's no predictable way of determining what that is. And that's not how every other business in the world works. You know, referrals are great. I want them too. But Coca-Cola sells itself also, but they have a $6 billion marketing budget. Why? You know, I just want to be clear about something before I go any further. I'm not here to trash referrals. I love them. They are warm and easy and they are great. And when a past client sends you their neighbor and that neighbor becomes a $2 million build, that's the best lead in the world. And we still want those. Close rate is tremendously high. The trust is already there. And you probably didn't spend a dollar to get it. But here's the question I want you to sit with. Can you plan around referrals? Can you look at next quarter and say with confidence, here's what's coming in, here's our revenue, here's what we're building? Or does it feel more like spinning a wheel and hoping it lands on something good? When I work with builders who tell me their business is mostly referrals, I always ask the same question. I say, that's great. How many will you have next month? And 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, they laugh a little bit because they know the answer is they have no freaking idea. That's the referral trap. Not that referrals are bad. It's that referrals alone are unpredictable. And you cannot build a scalable, saleable company on something you can't predict. Here's something even more important that most builders never think about. A referral is one exposure, maybe two. That means someone mentions your name at a dinner party or a realtor passes along your card. That's it. That's your entire footprint in that prospect's world. But while that's happening, while you're sitting back waiting on referrals, the 3 other builders in your market are showing up in that same prospect's Instagram feed 3 times a week. They're popping up in YouTube pre-rolls. Their blog post about kitchen trends is the first thing that comes up when that prospect searches Google at 11 o'clock at night from their couch. There is a principle in psychology just called the mere exposure effect. And the more often someone sees something, the more they trust it, period. It feels familiar. It feels safe. It feels competent. They may not remember where they saw it or why, but when it's the 5th time they've seen you and your face and your name, the 10th time, suddenly, well, I know that guy, even though they don't know you yet. You could be the best builder in your market, and if the guy down the road is showing up more often, their brain will start to trust him more, not because he's better, just because he's more visible. And the scary part, you don't even know it's happening because those prospects never called you. They were in your market the whole time and you were invisible to them. Real talk. Referrals give you one shot at a small slice of your market. A lead flow system gives you multiple shots at all of your market. And let me give you the actual math on this. At any given market, at any given moment in your market, about 3% of potential clients are ready to hire a builder right now. That's true for everything. 3% of people are ready to buy a cake on the cake company's website too. How do we capture the other 97%? The 3% that are ready to hire a builder right now, that's great. They've got the lot, they've got the budget, they're making calls, they are ready. Referrals reach that 3% when timing is perfect. When someone happens to mention your name at exactly the right moment, you get a shot at one of those 3% buyers. But what about the other 97%? And I have another video called Selling the 97%, which you can go search for. But there's another 7% of that 97%. They're close. They're saving, they're talking, they're planning. They'll be ready in 6 to 12 months. And then there's the 90%, the dreamers, the researchers, the people who are going to build someday. They're watching, they're paying attention. And every year, some of them move into the ready category. If your only strategy is referrals, you're fishing in the world's smallest pond. You're competing like crazy for the 3%, fighting every other builder in your market for those same few names. And while the other 97% slips past you completely. And the builders I've watched, and this is true in my experience as well, in multiple real estate development and construction companies, I've done well in excess of $100 million in sales. The builders I've watched scale past 15, 20, $30 million, they have this locked in. And it is one of the 3 laws and 9 levers that we talk about in this book. It is the magnet side of the equation. When we can solve for the magnet, it solves all other downstream problems. If you had more qualified leads than you could handle right now, would it solve your payroll problem? Would it solve your cash flow problem? Would it solve your I want to buy a new yacht problem? Probably. And that's what we're talking about today. The builders that scale, the ones who understand that the building business is math just like any other business, they've built a system that captures and stays in front of all 3 groups. The 3%, the 7%, and the other 90 simultaneously. Here's an experiment I want you to try. Pull up your website right now and a handful of your competitors, or just think about it. You've got probably beautiful photos, your work's incredible, maybe there's an about page, some testimonials, Google reviews, a few project galleries. Now scroll to the bottom or look in the top right corner. What's there? Contact us, or get a quote, or maybe get started. Here's what that button is really saying to the person who found you at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, because they're dreaming about building a house someday, but they're nowhere near ready. It's saying, please, Mr. Builder, initiate a sales conversation with me before I'm ready to have one. Think about the last time you walked onto a car lot. You're just looking around. You're not sure if you're buying. Maybe you won't buy anything today. You just want to see what's out there. And then that salesman comes walking out of the door, whistling. You know the guy. We all know the guy. And the second he starts moving towards you, what happens? You tense up. You already start planning your exit. Even if you actually want a car, something in you shuts down the moment you feel like you're being walked into a sales process before you're ready. That's what a contact us button does to 97% of the people who land on your site and aren't ready yet. It's the salesman walking across the lot. And most of them, they don't tense up and stay. They just leave quietly, no trace, gone. And here's the part that should genuinely bother you. You will never know they were there. There's no record, there's no name, there's no email, there's no way to ever reach back out. That family who spent 20 minutes looking at your kitchen gallery and dreaming about their future home, they left. They Googled the next builder. And 18 months later, when they were finally ready to hire someone, they called him, not you. Real talk. Every person who leaves your website without giving you a way to follow up is a lead you'll never get back. Your contact us button is losing you more business than any ad campaign could ever make up for. So what's the fix? You give people somewhere else to go. You give the 97%, the dreamers, the planners, the almost ready people, something they can take from you that's actually valuable without having to commit to a sales conversation. One they're not ready for, frankly. That's what a lead magnet is. It's not a gimmick, it's a trade. You give someone something genuinely useful, a checklist, a guide, a budget worksheet, a short video series walking through one of your builds, something that serves them right now at whatever stage they are in the process. And in exchange, they give you their name and email and maybe their phone number so that you can stay in front of them. Instead of ready to hire a builder, contact us, you're saying, still figuring things out? Here's a free guide on the 10 questions every homeowner should ask before breaking ground. No pressure, no sales call, just something that helps you. Which person is more likely to hand over their email address? And which of those two experiences makes you feel like a trusted guide versus a salesman? If you've never read Donald Miller's book, Becoming a Story Brand or Story Brand 2.0, Donald Miller is genius, but one of his overarching themes is when you look at your website, are you the hero in the story? Is it all about you and how your grandfather started the company and we have the best workmanship? Nobody cares. If they're not the hero in the story, they're not going to buy. You look at any book, any movie, it's you are the guide. They are the hero. You are Yoda. they are Luke Skywalker. Hey team, real quick before we keep going, everything I am walking you through in this series is pulled directly from the framework I built for custom home builders scaling to 20 million and beyond. It is called the 3 laws and 9 levers, the magnet, the method, and the machine. I did a full training on the entire framework, all 3 laws, all 9 levers, all the stories, all the data, the whole thing. It was originally just for Boardroom members. I'm giving it away for free. No opt-in required, no email required. Just click the first link below and watch it. If this video has been useful, then that training will change the way you look at your business forever. I guarantee it. Go watch it. My gift to you. I hope to see you on the other side. All right, we'll get back to it. So again, which of those people is more likely to hand over their email address or phone? And which of those two experiences makes you feel like a trusted guide versus a salesperson? I want to take a minute here and explain why this works, because when you understand the psychology, you'll use it better. Nobody builds a $1 million or $2 million custom home on impulse. It's not a car. It's not a vacation. It's the biggest purchase most people will ever make in their lives. And the decision-making process starts long before they ever pick up a phone. It starts with research, with dreaming, with watching and comparing, and quietly building trust over months, sometimes years. The builders who win those clients aren't always the best builders in your market. They're the ones who showed up consistently during that trust building window. The ones who were in the prospect's world while they were still deciding. The ones who felt familiar and credible and helpful by the time the prospect was finally ready to make a call. There's a principle called the law of reciprocity, and it's one of the most well-documented patterns in all of human psychology, which is most of those books back there. When you give someone something of value, no strings attached, no pressure, they naturally want to give you something back. That sample at the grocery store makes you feel like you should buy the product, even though you didn't plan to. I've been guilty of that. You've been guilty of that. Reciprocity. The financial advisor who sends you a free report that actually teaches you something. Reciprocity. When you give a prospective client a resource that genuinely helps them, a budget worksheet that helps them figure out if they can afford to build, a guide that explains the process before they ever call anyone, you've started the relationship on a foundation of goodwill. They don't owe you anything, but they feel like they already know you. And that feeling is worth more than any ad you could ever run. Here's the second piece. The moment you stop being just another builder and start showing up as the person who teaches, who explains budgets and timelines and what to expect, how to avoid the common mistakes, you shift into a completely different category in the prospect's mind. They're not comparing you to 3 other builders anymore. They're thinking about, what you taught them. They're associating you with clarity and with confidence. And when it comes time to hire someone, that association is enormously powerful. And something you have to admit as a builder, we're lumped in. I mean, I was a builder for 20 years. We're lumped in right there with realtors and used car salesmen. Like the customer automatically thinks the general contractor is out to screw them. And they're constantly looking for affirmation that you're not going to be that guy, that they can trust you. It is really powerful to build that trust from the very first interaction and not immediately put them into a sales conversation. And in the book, I talk about the difference between a flashlight and a lighthouse. A flashlight chases, it shines its beam all over the place, hoping to hit something. A lighthouse doesn't move, it just stands there and sends out a clear, steady signal and draws the right people to it. A good lead magnet is how you become the lighthouse in your market. It's how you show up as the authority, the builder who actually helps people understand what they're getting into instead of just one more name in the bid pile. More real talk. The builder who teaches wins because authority closes deals that price never could. One more piece of psychology is worth understanding here. There is a concept called the trust gap, which I just mentioned, the space between someone first becomes aware of you and when they're ready to hire you. For high ticket home building, and I'm talking anything, 800,000 to 15 million, that gap can be 6 months, it can be 2 years. And if you only communicate with people when they're actively in buying mode, when they've already decided to build and they're making calls, you've missed the window where trust gets built. Because by the time they're making calls, the builder who was consistently showing up in their world during the previous 18 months, 24 months, already has a massive advantage over you. And that's what the nurture sequence does. And we have a whole other video on nurture sequence and what a new lead sequence and a general nurture sequence looks like. But it bridges the trust gap. It keeps you showing up with useful content. It's Gary V's jab, 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 right hook. It's behind the scenes updates. It's answers to questions they're already asking until the moment they're ready. So when that moment comes, you're not starting from zero. You're already their guy. All right, let's get practical. What works as a lead magnet for builders? The rule is simple. It has to solve a real problem that your prospect is already thinking about. Not something you want to talk about as the builder, something they're already Googling at 10 p.m. while their spouse is asleep and they're on the couch looking at lot listings. 10 questions to ask before you hire a builder. This one works because it makes them feel like they're in control. They're armed. They feel smart. And every question on that list positions you as the person who's thinking about things most builders aren't. You can make it local. 10 questions asked before you hire a builder in Fort Smith, Arkansas, or San Diego, California. And the specificity alone doubles the conversion rate. A simple downloadable spreadsheet that helps a homeowner ballpark what their dream project might actually cost. Square foot ranges, finish level tiers, allowances, contingencies, laid out in plain English so a third grader could read it. That one's powerful because it also pre-qualifies. The people who download it and fill it out are serious. They're not daydreaming anymore. They're doing math, and they're going to come back to you for the real numbers. Before and after photos from a past build or a short story about the family and the general cost range and the timeline from contract to move-in. Nothing builds trust faster than proof. Real clients, real homes, real outcomes. This one works especially well as a follow-up piece, something you send after someone downloads your first lead magnet to keep the relationship moving. A short 3 or 4 part series walking through a past build from lot prep to framing to finish. Show your process, introduce your team, let people see who you are before they ever meet you in person. Video like this one is the highest trust medium there is. If someone watches 4 videos of you being real and knowledgeable and easy to deal with, they are pre-sold before they pick up the phone. But this one's my favorite, and I want you to hear this one real close. Listen in, because it is the most versatile piece I've ever created for my own building company, and I called it the Homeowner's Emotional Rollercoaster. And it was a single page visual that mapped out the emotional journey every homeowner goes through during a custom build, from the first conversation all the way to move-in day. And the excitement at the start, the anxiety when things go slower than expected, the doubt that hits around the midpoint of every project, the frustration when selections feel overwhelming, and then the relief, the pride, the joy at the end when they're standing in the house they've dreamed about. And if you want that, just DM me or comment emotional roller coaster below. I'll send it to you. I used it in my contracts and I talked with people about it at the pre-con meeting. And it showed at this point, you're going to feel like things are moving really slow and you're going to be frustrated. So when that happened, they didn't think it was an anomaly. They just knew that that was part of the building process. When you can pre-frame it, when you can set that expectation, it eliminated so many calls and so many problems. You could see them getting frustrated. We would pull out that document that they signed at contract and say, remember when we said you were going to feel like this right here? And here's how you're going to feel in a few weeks. That's where we're at right now. And they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Prospects loved it. It was honest. Most builder marketing is all sunshine and rainbows and testimonials. And that said, the document said, here's what you're going to feel like and when. It felt real. It felt like someone finally understood what they were going to go through. But here's the part that made it even more valuable. I built it into my contracts, like I said. When the inevitable "I'm worried this is taking too long" phone call came in, and it always comes, it always comes, I could open up the roller coaster with that client and say, "Remember when we talked about that?" They go, "Ah, yeah, that's right. You're right here. This is completely normal. And here's what's coming on the other side." It saved me dozens of difficult conversations. It turned anxiety into trust, and it positioned me as the guide who had already anticipated every bump in the road. If you want a copy of that framework for your model for your own business, reach out and I'll send it to you. You can literally build your own version of this tomorrow. I've got it set up as a template for you. So, real talk, the best lead magnets don't just generate leads, they change the dynamic of the entire relationship before the first meeting ever happens. And I want to talk now about the asset nobody puts on their balance sheet. Your trucks are on there, your equipment's on there, your backlog value, if you're sophisticated about it. But here's an asset that most builders have never built and have no idea how valuable it could be: an owned, nurtured list of people who are moving toward building a home. Your social media followers, platform owns them. They could shut you down tomorrow. Instagram could change the algorithm and you'll see 20% of your audience go. Your Google ranking, someone can outspend you next month and you drop to page 3. But your email list, the names and email addresses of the people who raised their hand and said, "I want to hear from this guy," that's yours. Nobody can take it from you. One of my clients added a very simple lead magnet: 10 questions asked before you hire a builder in Port St. Lucie. Nothing fancy, one-page PDF with a clean design, his branding at the top. And in the first month, few dozen people downloaded it. Nothing dramatic, but you have to remember, those are a few dozen people that last month came to the website and left. They didn't click the Contact Us button or the Get a Quote button. But now they kept showing up in his emails. He kept sending useful content, behind-the-scenes updates from current builds, a short video about how allowances work, an FAQ about the design process. 18 months later, he got 3 contracts from the names on that list. 3 contracts, not 3 leads, 3 signed contracts on custom homes. Jobs that would have slipped away completely if his website still just had a Contact Us button. Those people had been on his list the whole time, quietly moving towards ready. And when they got there, he was the obvious call. One of those jobs was a $1.8 million build. The homeowner had downloaded that PDF on a Tuesday night, read it, thought, "This guy knows what he's talking about and doing." And he stayed on the list for a year and a half. He watched 4 of the behind-the-scene videos. He read probably a dozen emails, and you can track all these things with a CRM. We have other videos about that. But by the time he was ready to build, he wasn't comparing builders. He was just waiting for the right moment to call. And here's what's powerful about this when you think about it over a longer timeline. Every lead you capture today makes your business stronger tomorrow. A list of 500 qualified prospects is more valuable than a list of 50. A list of 2,000 is a different kind of business entirely, because some of those people aren't going to buy from you directly. Some of them are going to tell someone else about you. They're going to be at the golf club and they're going to share your content. They're going to be at the pool, and some of them are going to text their friend and say, "Hey, I follow this builder. You should check him out." The list becomes a referral machine on top of everything else. Builders who build this asset are playing a completely different game than the guys who are living and dying by the next phone call. They have predictability. They have leverage. And when it comes time to sell the business, like I did, and at some point, most builders at least think about that, even if they don't pull the trigger. A database of thousands of warm prospects is an asset that buyers pay for. More real talk, a list compounds like interest. Every name you capture today is worth more a year from now than it is today. And let me spend just a minute on what happens after someone downloads your lead magnet. And we have whole other videos on this called Now Clients, Next Clients. There's other things that I can send you. But capturing the lead is only the beginning. Most builders who try this, if they try it at all, get the download, collect the email, and then crickets. No follow-up, no sequence, no reason for that person to ever think about them again. And that's almost as bad as not having the lead magnet in the first place. The lead magnet opens the door. The nurture sequence keeps it open. And what does nurture look like? It is not a monthly newsletter. It is certainly not a Merry Christmas when 20% of the people are going to open it with your company logo and a list of completed projects. It is an education-based journey. Email 1, deliver the lead magnet, give them one genuinely useful insight about building process. Email 2, tell them a short story about a client who went through something they're probably worried about going through. How did it turn out for that person? Email 3, answer a question they're almost certainly asking. How do allowances work? What's a realistic timeline for a custom home? How do I know if a builder's bid is fair? Each piece serves them. Each piece builds trust. Each piece makes you feel more like the person who understands this process better than anyone else in your market. And over time, over weeks, over months, that person stops seeing you as a builder and starts seeing you as the builder, as the guide, the one that they already trust, the one they feel like they already know. And when it's time to make a call, there's no comparison to make. Leads don't always close when they're captured. They close when they're ready. Your job is still to be there and still to be trustworthy. And when that moment arrives, who do they call? All right, here's what I want you to actually do with this. I put together a full breakdown on exactly how to build your first lead magnet, what types work best for builders, how to set up the capture, and what the first 5 emails of your nurture sequence should look like. It is free. The link is in the description. And if you want to go deeper on the full system, how this connects to your positioning, to your sales process, how the top builders in the country are running a layered lead flow engine that fills the pipeline at every stage, that's what we work through inside the Builders Boardroom. And Builders Boardroom is a private group for established custom home builders who are done operating like they're in their first year and ready to build something that actually scales. If that sounds like where you're at, there is a link below. You can go check out. There is a full training on everything that is in this book and how you can apply it. And completely free. You can go watch it right now. There's not even an opt-in on that link, so you don't have to even give me your email to go watch it. But I hope this was valuable. If it was, do the usual: like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if I can ever help you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out, leave a comment. I answer them all personally, and we will see you on the next one. Cheers.